So today, rather than showing you an expansion and legendaries or cards that are involved in that expansion, I'm showing you arguably the dumbest legendary cards that Hearthstone's ever printed. This is going to be across multiple expansions and years. Obviously, the goal here is for you to tell me if they are good or not. I was going to do a fun mini game of asking you whether or not you think all of these cards are real, but I promise you all of them are real. I didn't want you to think about psychologically every single time, is this card actually in the game or not?
We're talking about dumbest. Like, are we talking dumb as in like dumb powerful, or dumb as in like why did they make this card?
I'm gonna let you answer that question on your own.
Oh, excellent. Great. This is gonna be a good time.
There's your first
This is gonna
one.
be a good time. What the f is this? Okay. The Ceaseless Expanse is a 100 mana card. I imagine it's not going to actually cost that. 15/15 costs 1 less for each time a card was drawn, played, or destroyed. Battle cry, destroy all other minions. I like how it wasn't enough that this thing already is just like this ridiculous mana reducing thing, but they also have to just give it the ability to kill everything else when you play it too, right?
Well, to be fair, would you play a 0 mana 15/15 on turn 10? Probably not.
It's free. I mean, I don't know. I come from the game where everything's free, so it's hard to say. But yeah, to be fair, yeah, you're right. You're right. Probably not.
It'd be too slow,
Probably
right?
not.
So this is like, I mean, it's super flavorful, right? Like destroying everything as the Ceaseless Expanse as it keeps on growing. I guess getting shrinkers like the mana cost here, but yeah. So this
it's like a black hole. It's like a black hole.
Exactly.
Basically.
So this is from the new Hearthstone set. This is from 2024. Do you think a card like of this magnitude with this mana cost is playable?
Okay, so when it says for each time a card was drawn, played, or destroyed, I'm assuming that also counts the opponents because it doesn't say yours or like you played.
Yep.
Right, okay. So that's a big difference in evaluating this because it's like, okay, if you have this like in your opening hand, hypothetically, right? Now, I guess that opens up another question. Does the mana reduction count while it's in the deck?
Yes. Yeah.
It does. Okay, see, like that's like that would never happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously.
Mechanically, in Hearthstone, the cards still cost 100 mana while it's in the deck.
Okay.
But when you draw the card, it will reduce its cost.
Right. So like it will reduce down to like 10 or whatever, however it's calculated everything. That's kind of cool though, like design wise, if they can do something like that. Like you can never track that for Yu-Gi-Oh! This seems like a big flashy Timmy card, like on surface, right? Like, oh, it's crazy, you know, it's 15/15 and it kills everything. The issue I see with this that raises like alarm bells is that if the game is over in Hearthstone by like turn 5, 6, 7, are you even going to get the opportunity to play this card, right? So in my mind, this would have to be played in like either a very specific format or a very specific deck that's like control heavy that you're getting to the late game to be able to actually play this card. But if the average Hearthstone game is ending before you even hit turn 10, right, this card might not even be playable unless you have a million other ways to reduce the cost of it or some way to cheat it out. And even if you're cheating it out, there's probably maybe better things to cheat out anyway. I don't know. I think conditionally this card can be okay, but I think there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through for this card to be good. Unless there's like just a super heavy control meta and that like the games take ages to actually play. That would be my guess.
Okay, so you're saying the Ceaseless Expanse is bad?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay, so I'll give you some context here. When they first showed the card, I was actually like, there's no way this is playable. I was in the same boat as you. Right, 100 mana is fucking insane. And even with
it's huge.
Even by turn 5, right? Like what's the lowest this could be? Like even if I got it to 30 mana on turn 5, I'd still be like, holy fuck, right? This card ended up being a lot better than I expected it to be, but it's still not at the point where it's like meta defining or anything. I went to go look at HS Replay, which is like the data aggregate site, the best that we have. And in Legend right now, the average win rate is 48.5%, which for a 100 mana card is actually very impressive.
Yeah.
Because there are situations where this card will cost 0. You play it and then you develop something behind it, right? Which is really cool. I think after rotation happens, this card will be a lot better because the game's going to slow down a little bit. But currently the game is too fast. So contextually, you are right. This card's not it.
Yogg Saron, Master of Fate. I know Yogg Saron. I don't think I've seen this Yogg Saron.
Okay, perfect.
10 mana for a 7/5. Speaking of 10 mana cards, Battle Cry. If you've cast 10 spells this game, spin the Wheel of Yogg Saron. Do I get to know what the Wheel of Yogg Saron is?
These are all the options that you can get. I'm going to actually show you the GIF before you read this card, or like what it looks like in game. You'll notice that there's 6 different options, and you would think like, oh, they're all equal, right? You have an equal chance to get any one of these. That's not true. Can you read the very last one, the most right card for me?
The Rod of Roasting?
Yes, if you don't mind reading that out loud.
Cast Pyroblast randomly until a player dies. That's hilarious.
So if you remember what Pyroblast is, right? It's the 10 mana spell for mage
10 damage. I remember
10
that.
damage.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why I have to show you like this is because here's what the wheel looks like when you spin it. If it loads, there you go. And like very briefly, you'll notice when the wheel pops up that one of the options is slightly less of a size than the rest of them because you have less of a chance to get rotted roasting.
Okay.
It is there.
But like very small.
Once you read the other options, you'll understand why. You'll notice that like they probably don't want you to have a consistent chance of just ending the game on the spot. Hopefully they've learned from that.
You're just all a bunch of degenerate gambling addicts. That's what I learned from this.
We are.
Okay. Curse of Flesh. Fill the board with random minions and give yours Rush. And Rush is not face. It's only
not face,
other minions.
Only on board,
okay. Devouring Hunger. Destroy all other minions. Gain their attack and health. Gain their attack and health.
It's only Yogg that would get it. Only Yogg.
Oh, Yogg, duh. Yeah, I
Yogg.
forgot we're playing a card to do this. Sorry. Okay, Hand of Fate. Fill your hand with random spells. They cost 0 this turn. Okay. Mind Flayer Goggles. Take control of 3 random enemy minions. Mystery Box. Cast a random spell for every spell you cast this game. Okay, so that's like old Yogg at that point.
Yep.
And then the Rod of Roasting. Okay, that's a lot. Let's think about this. I say that's a lot. And I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player. It's not really that much. Okay, so if you've cast 10 spells, it doesn't seem hard to get to 10 spells. That seems very easy for a lot of decks to do.
Yes,
you spin the wheel. It's a 7/5. Stats are like kind of whatever in this. It's okay. Curse of Flesh. You fill the board with minions. Yours have Rush, so you get initiative to be able to like kind of control some of the outcome. But like you could get a bunch of weenies and they get like 20/20s or something, and then you just cry because you probably lost anyway. Destroy all other minions. Gain their attack and health. That's fine. That's basically a board wipe at that point. Like a 1/6 for. Fill your hand with random spells. They cost 0. That could be good, but they're random at the end of the day. But cards are cards, so it's not bad. Especially if you're playing this on like a low hand, then you just get 8 cards for free. That's pretty good. Take control of 3 random enemy minions can be okay if they have minions, but a lot of these are kind of board wipey type effects anyway. Like Curse of Flesh is kind of a board wipe. Devouring Hunger is a board wipe. Mind Flayer Goggles is like flipping the board around in a way. Filling your hand with spells that cost 0. One of them could be a board wipe. And then Mystery Box can be a board wipe, but it can also be like anything. And then Pyroblast just ends the game immediately. Or Rod of Roasting, excuse me. Are
you having fun?
So like I'm having a blast. This is great. I miss this so much. You have no idea. So I want to say this is like 10 mana for maybe you board wipe your opponent.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
And maybe 10 mana, maybe board wipe your opponent. There's a 2% chance you lose the game by playing this card. But you could win the game if you're behind, which could be very infuriating, I imagine.
So
I mean, at that point, wouldn't you just rather? Interesting.
I'm gonna give you some context here.
Sure, go ahead.
The first Yogg was around in the game. The reason why Yogg was really good was because it's like an emergency button, right? You wouldn't play Yogg ahead. Why would I ever play Yogg ahead? That's the only way I would lose the game at that point. So you would hold it in case you were behind, and then you would slam it because the average outcome was more beneficial for you if you were behind. So you could almost think about that like Yogg.
I could see this being playable. Like if it's, you know, it's not Yogg, it's like Yogg inspired. And most of the time you're getting a Yogg-like effect. And I feel like this is something that if it is in the game, that people have to like be mindful of the fact that, oh, we're coming up on, 10 mana here. If they have this, like, what's going to happen, right?
Okay.
I could see it.
You don't sound convinced at all.
I'm not like fully convinced because there's just so much randomness to it, but like old Yogg was also playable, right? So I'll say this is like an okay to like good card.
Okay, so I'm going to do, before I even get to where it is in the metagame, I'm going to compare this to the other Yogg because I think it's a really good comparison. This card's infinitely worse than the other Yogg. I'd rather have the other Yogg 99% of the time. The reason is
I would too.
At least when you play the other Yogg, you have consistency of what the card is going to do. Like, you know that you don't know what spells it's going to cast, but you at least understand that it's going to cast spells equal to the amount that you've played. This card is, let me play a 10 mana 7/5 that arguably might not do anything. Right, like you said, if I play this and I'm behind, if I fill up their board and I get a bunch of bad minions, they're ahead. Yeah, I could clear their board, but also like I could just play a board clear. I don't really need to play Yogg. Obviously, there's always the chance that you are going to high roll here, so we always have to have an asterisk for all of this. The main one you're looking for, which is hilarious, is the mystery box. That's the one you care about.
Because it's like old Yogg.
it's old Yogg, and most of the time, again, if you're behind, it's like the best one. I will point out, at least in my experience, people probably have different experiences for this card, but Mind Flayer Goggles was really good. Now, I want to just point out the Rod of Roasting might be one of the best things they've ever added to this game. I can't tell you how funny it is to just put your faith into that and just watch what happens. It is fucking, it's like being a part of a show, and it is phenomenal. Is it good? No, you might lose, but it's so fun. Like, there are moments that I've seen where you are going to lose the game, you play this, and Rod of Roasting wins you the game because you just got extremely lucky. And that's a moment from a game design perspective that you will never forget for the rest of your life, regardless of how good this card is.
Oh, so, and the person who lost is going to think the exact same thing.
Listen, that's their fault. All right, they should have been luckier. Whatever, it's fine. It's fine. So, in terms of design and what Hearthstone's going for, I think this card's very fun, very good, very flavorful to what Yogg wants to be. Sure. But the card just wasn't that good, unfortunately.
Dragonqueen alexstrasza. I have not seen. There's an original alexstrasza, right?
Yes, there is. Yes,
I believe. Yes. Okay, that sounds familiar because this name sounds familiar. 9 mana, 8/8. Battle Cry. If your deck has no duplicates, they love their no duplicate stuff in this game. Add 2 other random dragons to your hand. They cost 0.
So before you continue, I just want to say for people watching this, I'm basing this review of when the card was first released, and this will be relevant to when you give your analysis. I'll explain why later.
Okay. The no duplicates thing, obviously, because that's Reno, right? Reno is the no duplicate guy, I think.
Yes. So I also will give you context here. Yes. When this card was released, this was 2019. Reno was rotated. So in Wild, if you wanted to play it, go for it. But the Reno Jackson that you know was not currently in the game.
Sure. My point being is that this game is no stranger to no duplicate things, because I remember that. Dragons, I want to say from my little knowledge of them, are typically like giant and huge. There might be some that are tiny. Okay. But for the most part, I imagine they're just like big, giant guys like this.
I will say for this particular expansion, they released, this was a part of Descent of Dragons. They did release a lot of dragons throughout this expansion. And in the standard rotation, I would say the average dragon was pretty decent.
Okay. I guess it's like one of those things where it's like, if the pool of dragons is good enough, then like you're getting 2 extra cards, not to mention they're free. That could be really good. But it's also like, what else is this competing with at 9 mana, essentially? Okay.
That's fair. That is fair.
Because it's not like, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh brain, oh, I get 2 other cards and they're free. Like, that sounds good, right? But in Hearthstone, you pull everything out of thin air, like, every turn. So that's not like anything like crazy by your game standards, right? But you could pull like you could pull 2 above average dragons, and all of a sudden you have like this crazy swing. And like, I don't know if there's dragons that like board wipe, or if there's dragons that like do a lot of face damage, or just things like that, right? But at face value, it's just like get 2 big minions for free, and that could be like a huge tempo swing potentially. I will say that I'm not biting, and I don't think this is very good.
During the time this card was released, you were able to generate a Dragonqueen alexstrasza from your Dragonqueen alexstrasza. Would you like to reevaluate what you just said?
I mean, it's still random though, right? You still have to, like, you have to live the dream to go like Dragonqueen alexstrasza, Dragonqueen alexstrasza, right? Like, it's still random. It's not like you get to choose. Yeah, I'll stick with my answer.
Okay, this card was fucking insane.
Okay, well, that's it.
So this is 2019 Hearthstone, which means Demon Hunter wasn't in the game yet. The power creep was not absurdly good. This was actually like one of the best cards in the format.
Okay.
Because what would happen is during a Highlander deck, if you're playing for board, I could clear the board. The next turn I could play Alex, and then I would potentially high roll and just win the game off this random dragon. The dream in Disneyland, if I had Dragonqueen alexstrasza into a Dragonqueen alexstrasza, the game was over. Like, there's no way you're coming back.
The game just would be over at that point. Yeah, if you hit it. Yeah.
On average, the dragons that you would get were pretty good, and they would fight for the board. They would basically, there's a really good chance you're at least taking down a couple of minions.
Bounce Around featuring Garona.
This is a music set for the record, so that's why the name of the card is so strange. It's like a song.
Okay. Interesting. 3 mana Rogue legendary. Return all friendly minions to your hand. They cost 1 this turn. Okay. What have I learned from this before? I've learned that there's some Rogue card that I think it's like it's 0 or 1. Maybe it was nerfed and it was 0 and now it costs 1 or 2 or something. There was some card that like you can just bounce something back, and that was like crazy. But then there was like some other card. Shadow Step, thank you. And I think there was some other card though that was like a mass bounce I think that was also good. So I think if I've learned anything, like mass bounce is like typically good, but this costs 3. But I think that mass bounce thing costs like 6 or something that you showed me.
You're thinking
like
of Vanish, which was 6 mana.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. I guess this is in that same light. So fuck it. The other 2 were good. This is good. Final answer.
Final. Okay, so you know what's hilarious is most people were just like you, right? Including me. We all saw this card and went, what the like, why are they printing this card? This doesn't make any sense. This card's awful.
Really?
Like, I'm talking awful. Like, it is mind-blowing how bad this card is.
That's crazy.
To be fair, there's like very few cards that have an exception like this. You can't discover this card. You can't discover it. And I think they did that specifically because if you do discover it, the game just becomes too like unfun for your opponent because of how big of a high roll this could be. But you're not putting the shit in your deck. I think the logic behind it is that 3 mana, and then you also have to have additional mana to replay those minions, is just too much mana in Hearthstone these days, which is
that's crazy.
So stupid to say out loud because, you know, in any like in older formats, this card would have been probably really good. But yeah, this card has never seen any play.
Kil'jaeden?
Yep.
I guess we're don't tell that to
Kil'jaeden.
Yu-Gi-Oh players. They'll kill their favorite protagonist. Anyway, 7 mana, 7/7, battle cry. Replace your deck with an endless portal of demons. Each turn they gain an additional +2/+2. Okay. Clarifying dumb Hearthstone questions. Let's get to it. Okay. And when it says each turn they gain +2/+2, do they gain those stats in the deck?
Okay, so this is where we get really weird here. So you don't have a deck anymore. You have an endless portal. Your deck is fucking gone.
Sorry. Oh, excuse me. You have an endless portal. Okay, go on,
yes,
lore master.
They only get buffed while they're in this portal. Like if you draw one, they don't get an additional +2/+2.
Okay.
But yeah, this could go theoretically infinite. And I'm gonna just maybe answer questions that you might have about this. This acts like your deck. So that means if you have a card that says discover something from your deck, you will still get 3 options. Like you will still mechanically have the same thing as like a deck in Hearthstone. But the reason why this is relevant is because fatigue is no longer a thing in this game.
That was what I was about to just ask next. Yes.
Before you even ask as well, the average demon in Hearthstone currently, I would say, is fine. There are some very big high rolls. There's also a lot of low rolls. Actually, let me show you one of these cards right now before you even get to this. Hold on, because it's just so fucking funny that this is an interaction in the game.
Malefic Rook. Battle cry, or sorry, 3 mana, 5/6. Battle cry, attack your hero. That's funny.
So yeah, imagine this is like a 15-16 or whatever. I don't know. I'm not doing the math on this. And then you play this and you do 15 damage to yourself. Like that is something that can happen, right? So
that's funny.
Kil'jaeden is a really, really weird value engine later in the game. Like that's what I would describe it as.
This is a really interesting card, I will say. Like, I don't know if it's good or not yet, but just like on the surface, again, because like Yu-Gi-Oh wouldn't have anything like this, obviously. Just like functionally, this does like a lot of really interesting like things from like a game design perspective.
I would agree.
I feel like. So on the surface, my mind immediately goes to like the control decks that want to play the mega long game and want to like just whittle away the opponent like almost in like a fatigue war type of situation. Because if you have this and they don't and you get to that situation, you win. Like they can't beat you. It's impossible. Like you just have ultimate inevitability. Do you necessarily need this card to do that is another question. Maybe not, but it's like a tool that would allow you to do that. I'm just like, that's like kind of where it ends for me though, because I feel like in most other instances, this is neutral, right? Yeah, this is neutral.
This is neutral, yep.
In most other instances, like why would you want this? Like, yeah, like even in the world where a couple turns go by and you get like a 1 or 0 cost demon that's like an 8/8 or a 10/10 or something, like maybe that could be really good for you, but I don't know. I kind of feel like this is like the first card you showed me, the Ceaseless expanse or whatever, that it's like, I think situationally in like the right decks, this card can be good, but this isn't like an auto include in like every single deck. I think that's where I'm at with this.
Okay, that's completely fair. This is obviously not, I would think most people would agree with you on that point. Like you don't auto include this in deck. You need a reason.
And then you tell me it's the craziest card they've ever printed.
So listen, here's the thing about Kil'jaeden. This card is fucking, I want to just compliment whoever designed this card because I think it's fucking amazing. I know I'm actually a huge fan of like attrition based stuff in like card games. I love outvaluing my opponent and like slowly whittling them down. But in current Hearthstone, I think this fits very nicely into the game. Like it's not like insanely good in fatigue. It's really good in fatigue matchups, sorry. But that doesn't happen very often in current Hearthstone. So like, the fact that this is available is just really cool. If you printed this in 2015, this might have been the most hated card of all time. After rotation, I do feel like Kil'jaeden will be a lot better.
Spore, the art. Spore Empress Moldara?
Yes.
6 mana, 6/7. Start of game, shuffle 7 replicating spores into your deck. Hey, Rarran, what's a replicating? Oh, you already sent it to me. Never mind. I was already setting you up for the bit, and you sent it to me ahead of time. All right.
Sorry.
Replicating spore is ugly as hell. It's a 5 mana. This is warrior, by the way. I completely missed that.
You're good. You're good.
Summon a random 5-cost minion. Your future replicating spores summon it as well. Okay, so if you play this, you summon a guy. Then the second spore you play summons that guy, and then a new guy, and then so on, so on. Okay, just so I understand. Exactly. This got to be one of the ugliest cards I've ever seen in my life. This art is hideous. This is ugly. All right, anyway, that out of the way. Yugioh brain. The thing that I immediately don't like about this is that you're shuffling 7 5-cost cards into your deck. So you're inherently making the rest of your deck less consistent. Okay. Because, I mean, in Hearthstone, your deck's already smaller anyway, though. You know, you have less cards per quantity.
You also have way better draw. Remember that.
You have way better draw too, which is a trade-off, and that's a big difference. That was like the first thing I thought of when I see this. It's weird because it's like this thing, the Moldara is just a vanilla. Like this doesn't do anything. It does the effect, but then it's a 6 mana 6/7 in your deck and just sits there. And it's like if you draw it, you hate your life. My gut's telling me this is bad, but I could see the instances where it just gets really out of hand early. And then it's like, you just like, if you get like a couple of these fired off, I feel like your opponent just like gets really behind and they just can't keep up. Okay. But I feel like that's situational. So I feel like, I don't feel like the high roll is going to high roll, but you can make that argument for any card. So I'm going to say that this is bad.
Okay. So you'd be entirely right. This card is atrocious. I don't know what. Okay. The problem with this card, if you don't get a good 5-drop immediately, that 5-drop is going to be there every single time you play this. And what I meant by there are some really good high rolls, there are 5-drops in this game that will say, give a minion this minion's attack and give it rush. And you can do that twice. So if you summon that every single time you play a replicating spore, all of a sudden this card gets a lot better. That card's called Sandcastle for people who are curious. Which means that card could be nuts, but yeah, this card's atrocious. Currently, the deck win rate with a card like this is 33%, and
excellent.
The sample size is so low that I couldn't even tell you how accurate that is. So
deserved. Reno the relicologist. This might be the Reno you're referring to, but I don't know how many Renos are in the game at this point. All right, it's a mage card. Happy to see that. 6 mana, 4/6. Battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, deal 10 damage randomly split among all enemy minions. Oh, we love random damage, don't we? That seems okay. Like, that seems pretty good. If you're playing mage, it can slow the aggro decks because they probably go wider, so they might have guys that have like 1 or 2 or 3 health potentially. That seems okay. Like, that seems pretty good. And also, you know what? I think people like Reno, just like, I'm going to go like, this is like philosophy of like game design, right? I think they want the cards with characters to be good because they want people to play them. So like, I think this card's like, I wouldn't say this is like the craziest card ever printed, but like, I think this is a good value card. It seems decent. Seems good.
So this card was released the expansion before Sabers ruled them, right? So I was kind of hinting at the fact that like Dragonqueen alexstrasza had a deck to support it. Out of every class that got a Highlander card, Reno was actually considered the worst one going into the expansion. This card was like, because you actually said it exactly how it should be. We should have thought of it to begin with. 6 mana to deal 10 damage is actually a really good effect during Sabers of Uldum. But I think the issue is that we saw the original Reno and said, why the f would I want 10 damage when I used to restore all my health back? If you make that comparison, it's a lot more justifiable where a lot of people's minds were. This card actually was this card single-handedly made like Highlander Mage a really good deck. Because if you drop this shit on turn 6, you're like winning the game. Like there's so unlikely you're not losing the game at this point. Back in the day, you don't really have a ton of cards that gave you a board clear and you develop something on it, right? Right. And current Hearthstone, that's what everything is right now. And that's why one of the problems with the game entirely. But back in the day, like this shit was crazy.
Zephrys, whatever. The Great. 2 mana, 3/2. Battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, wish for the perfect card. What the f does that mean?
Okay, so before I even tell you what that means, do you think this card was good?
Well, I don't know what it means. What that wish for the? I'm gonna think of a card. Like what the? What What does that mean?
So
yeah, I wish the best card in my deck was like in my hand right now. Like, what is it? Wish? I wish all the time when I'm top decking. Sure,
See,
okay. What does that mean?
This is why I didn't want to show you the card, because it's like it's such a nuanced card. It's fucking crazy. Basically, the way they did it. Imagine if you had a bunch of if statements, okay? Do you know have you ever coded before in your life?
Yes,
okay.
yeah, I know,
so
I know if statements. Yeah.
Okay, so like, imagine you had a bunch of if statements. What Zephrys would do is look at the board. He can't read text on the cards. Like, he doesn't know what the death rattles are, for example. Like, he'll just know there is a death rattle. He'll look at the board and he'll give you the best options available from the classic and basic set. So, for example, if you played this card on turn 2 and Wild Growth is 3 mana and you just tempoed this out, it would know that you would want to play Wild Growth because that's what you played it for. Or if your opponent had a weapon and you had 2 mana available, it would give you Acidic Swamp Boost so you can kill their weapon. Like, it has a bunch of if statements for you to show you 3 different options. Some of these options.
So it's hacking.
I mean, sure, if you want to put it like that, sure. This card for Highlander decks was so fucking good. Like, it was
This
crazy.
card seems fucking crazy. How did they print this? It's literally a cheat code. It's like, oh, what situation am I in? Play this. Great, thanks for the card. Like, that seems so broken. That's why we play card games. It's variants. That's all. This removes the whole point.
It was very good. I think in terms of Highlander cards, like I was talking, I showed you Dragonqueen alexstrasza before. Dragonqueen Alex was very good, but Zephrys was like, and I think still probably to this day, maybe the best Highlander card we've ever had. People might argue
no shit.
People might argue the new Reno, which I guess I haven't showed you that card, but this card, this is why I don't show people this card, because it's too obvious. Like, if you got to wish for the perfect card, like, obviously it's fucking good. So this card was insane. And because you had the combination of Reno plus Zephrys, it made for a really good deck. And then when they added Dragonqueen Alex in, it's like the trifecta. Like, those are your Egyptian gods in Hearthstone. So, like,
this seems like an Egyptian god. It literally gives you the win.
He's nuts. He's such a cool card. And I think during the time, a lot of people were starting to get sick of him because it's like, man, I can't play into like any class because they're just going to get a board clear, right? There was like clear identities for like what classes could have. So when you print a neutral Highlander card, even though you do have to go for the Highlander deck archetype, it is still insane to think about the fact you have to play around like a Flame Shrike from Rogue.
Yu-Gi-Oh is interesting because it's like we're the game of tutors, obviously, and no card draw, but it's like we have some tutors that are like almost like get any card you want. Like, it has to be in your deck, obviously, so that makes a huge difference. But even the cards that let you get like the most generic type of card you want have like huge downsides to them. And for people wondering, I'm talking like left arm offering type things, right? Like, that's like get any spell card in your deck and you have to like discard or like banish your whole hand, and you need a minimum of like 3 other cards in your hand to activate that or something. Okay. So like even by like Yu-Gi-Oh, like I could not imagine this card existing in Yu-Gi-Oh because that would just be unbelievably insane. Bonelord frostwhisper, 6 mana, 6/6, death rattle. For the rest of the game, your first card each turn costs 0. You die in 3 turns. Oh, this is sick. This is cool. It's interesting because like Magic and this game, there's like all these types of effects that like, you know, you lose the game or you die in 3. Like Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't really have those types of effects. And it's like, I kind of wish we did in a lot of ways. Oh, yeah, honestly, that's probably why, to be fair. But it'd be interesting if they experimented because, like, obviously Yu-Gi-Oh's, like, power is so high compared to most games. How much crazier could it be if they have these types of things where it's like, you do this, and it's like, if you don't do this, like, you lose the game type of thing. Anyway, gotta play this. It has to die, and then ideally, okay, here's another question. Okay. If this dies the turn you play it, when does the death happen? Like, when does the turn count happen?
I believe it's at the start of your turn. But let me triple check that because I don't want to be wrong about that because that is actually very important.
So the fact that you don't know that tells me this card's bad and it hasn't seen play. So I'm going to go with that.
Well, hold on. That's not necessarily true because regardless of when it happened, right, you could just lose the game the next turn. Like you just win the game next turn because you have a fucking free card. I'm just trying to remember.
You're telling, but this is like the only way to get free cards. Like I've seen plenty of cards that do other free card type of effects. I've seen Dragonqueen alexstrasza, right? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but okay, listen, I understand your thought process, but at the same fucking time,
yeah, it sounds like you're backpedaling, Rarran. It sounds like you're backpedaling.
No. Listen. Dragonqueen alexstrasza is 2 random dragons in a pool. This is the first card you play in your deck that you're specifically putting in your deck with this card.
Sure, of course. So okay, but so basically the way I'm seeing this is that there's some gimmicky combo that this card, like you need to have this card, it needs to die. And then you have other combo piece in whatever deck you're playing that like now on the next turn, you can do this combo and it doesn't matter if you die in 3 turns because you kill your opponent in the turn. That's how I see this card working. Is that good? I think that's Disneyland. I don't think it's good. Final answer.
Okay, regardless of what the answer is, I'm sure someone in the comments will let me. I don't remember for the life of me. For the majority of the time this card was in standard, it was very bad. It was very bad.
See? I knew you were backpedaling.
Hold on. There are specific combos with this card that were actually playable that you could kill your opponent in 1 turn or across 2 turns, which is like really interesting because I don't know if Hearthstone's really, I mean, Hearthstone's had, I think I've showed you Wheel of Death before, which is like you destroy your deck.
Yes. I think you showed me that.
So like, it's kind of the same point as that, where it's like, you could do some insane stuff with this. I don't remember this card having like insane synergy or like something that's absolutely broken, mainly because it is a death rattle. Like the fact you have to also kill it, like if you don't kill it, like it sits there. Then if it gets silenced, it's like, holy fuck, like this is miserable. Elite
Tauren champ. Is he playing a guitar on his axe? Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You said there was a music set. 5 mana, 5/5. Finale. Start a rock duel in all caps. I guess I was right about the music. Players must spend all their mana each turn, or they take 8 or more damage.
Read the Molten Pick.
Okay. Molten Pick of Rock. At the end of turn, explode for 8 damage, or spend all your mana to give this to the opponent with play. Oh, I see. Okay, so it creates like a thing on the board, and then if you don't spend all your mana, it blows up for 8, and then it gives it to the opponent, and let's say they don't, then it's 10, 12, 14. It just keeps going up. Okay. I like this design. This is kind of cool.
It's a mini game for sure.
Yeah. Like as far as mini games go, I could see this being annoying, but it's also like, it's weird because since you specifically have mana costs, I think that's what makes this not fun, because it's like the little like mini games within games are good. You have the ability to like complete the side quest, right? But I think the most frustrating part about this is if like your opponent has like 8 mana, I'm just making this up, but your opponent has like 8 mana and they have like 2 cards in hand and they can't like equal the 8. And then like next turn it's 9 and they still can't equal the 9 even when they draw the 3rd card. Like when you can't make the math work, I could see this card being really fucking annoying.
I mean, to be fair, if like, let's just say like I'm playing a 5 mana 5/5 deal 8 damage for my opponent, right? Like that's not going to be fun regardless, right? But if they do have the mana to actually do the rock duel, this shit goes crazy.
Yeah, I like this. This is cool. I hope this is like something that people play.
Yeah, you think it's good?
I'm trying to just think how this plays out in my head. If the opponent has the ability to like not be affected by this, it's a 5/5 that does nothing. And then like potentially if you draw this later, it also could still do nothing. Wait, no. Hold on. I think I figured out where I'm wrong with this. Does the Molten Pick of Rock just leave the board then when it blows up?
Yeah, it'll be gone. Once it's done.
I think in my mind, I thought it was staying and it's still going.
That would be fucking...
That would be insane.
Okay.
That's where we're missing this. I missed the part where this leaves the board. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Once the duel is over, once you can't spend all your mana, the card's gone.
I love the minigame, but I don't think it's very good. I think it's like maybe a certain deck can like play this, but not every deck is playing this. So that's final answer.
Fair. Okay, yeah, this card wasn't great. Unfortunately for this card, yeah, it's like in theory, it's actually one of the coolest cards they've ever released. I think I fucking love this card. But I had a game where like we went to like legitimately like 30, and it was really fun because like you're not even playing optimally at that point. You're just spending your mana. Like you're like, fuck, I'm not losing this.
Exactly.
So it ends up being a lot more enjoyable because those moments is what you're gonna remember the most about Hearthstone, is those wacky fun moments. But the problem is like, it's finale. I wonder if it was Battlecry, it would have been more playable. But because you have to have exactly 5 mana to play this, and you're playing a 5 mana 5/5 is rough. And then your opponent theoretically doesn't really have to change their game plan whatsoever because they're just going to spend their mana regardless. So that it ends up being like at some point either you run out of steam or your opponent runs out of steam. But like, is the game over before then? Probably.
Duskfallen Aviana.
Aviana.
Okay. 5 mana 3/7. On each player's turn, the first card played costs 0. I mean, I like that my first card is 0, but I don't like that my opponent's is 0. This is Druid 2. You could ramp into this on turn 1. On each player's turn. So this is that same issue that other card had, though, because it's first card played that if you play this, your opponent gets first crack at that. I don't like that. Bad. This card's bad. I just straight up just don't like that they get first crack. That's just bad.
This card. This card's awful. Don't understand. Literally couldn't tell you why they printed it. I have actually no idea why this was even past design, because like as a player, it doesn't make any sense. Why would I play a card that gives my opponent an advantage? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
AFK, that's hilarious. 5 mana, 0/5. At the end of your turn, give all other friendly minions that didn't attack +2/+2. Other, so it doesn't count itself. It doesn't count itself.
It does not. I almost feel like with this video in particular,
this card's very flavorful. I like that.
It is. I feel like with this video more than anyone I've ever done with you, I feel like you're like so dumbfounded by half of these cards.
Kind of, because like you have to remember too, like so many of these cards are just unplayable by Yu-Gi-Oh standards that it's just like, I mean, some of them are playable by Hearthstone standards too, apparently, but it's just like, it's just hard to comprehend like that they would print a card like so bad a lot of the times.
That's fair. That is fair.
This is 5 mana. Oh my god. Didn't attack +2/+2. If you play this on like 5 mana, I want to say this is bad. I just like 5 mana, play this. It buffs your guys, sure, but then it's like you spent 5 mana to do like, I guess, okay, if you went wide, right? If you went wide and you had a bunch of guys, like turn 2 you play something, turn 3 you play something, turn 4 you play something. Let's say minimum you have 3 guys out. You play this, it's 5 mana for +6/+6, and then like a 0/5 minion that just sits there and does nothing. And then if you have no minions, this card doesn't do anything, because then it's just like, I don't like, no, this card, there's no way this card's good.
How would you feel if I told you this card was nerfed?
You are lying to me. There is no way that's true.
So,
there is no way that's true.
This card was actually nerfed, but it was nerfed.
Insane.
It was nerfed before the card was even released. So what Hearthstone does, I don't know if Yu-Gi-Oh does this. They probably don't. But when Hearthstone does their like announcement for their expansions, they do like a video, and during the video, I think the number was +2/+3 was the stat or the stats they would give to your other minions. And then when they released the card, it was +2/+2. And everyone was like, what the like, why did they nerf this? Even at +2/+3, this card's unplayable.
It's still not good. Okay, good. Avatar of Hearthstone. Very 4D wall breaking there. 9 mana, 5/5. Battle Cry. Open a standard pack. Play all cards from it. That's hilarious. Okay. So it immediately plays the cards, right? Like it just like you don't get them to your hand. Like it just deploys them.
So a Hearthstone pack has 5 cards. You need to have 5 open slots for you to open all those cards. Like you need to have them in your hand. Then what will happen is it will just play them. Now,
wait, so you need to have 5 or you need to have 6 or less cards in your hand to play this. To
get max value. To get max value.
Right. To get max value. Okay.
Also, the reason why it's important that it says play is that you don't get battle cries.
Yeah.
You will get every other effect. Like you will, like if it has rush, you'll get rush, whatever. But if it's a battle cry, you will not have that.
Okay. This is a very fun card. I'll give them that. That's cool. I need to do this video with you. I need to like figure out the wonkiest Yu-Gi-Oh cards and do this with you. I think that'd be interesting.
Okay, I'm done.
Anyway, it's costing 9 though. You don't know what you're getting. What is like the breakdown? Is it like 4 commons and like a rare most of the time, or is like the distribution all over the place?
I would say 4 commons and rare is pretty safe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, let's say on average, if you're going to divide minions and spells accordingly, you get like 2 minions, you cast 2 spells, and then the third one is like either or. So it's like on average 9 mana, play 3 guys, do 2 spells, 9 mana, play 2 guys, cast 3 spells. It's 9 mana though. And you need to have the slots open in your hand, which like isn't like impossible.
Think about one thing you're missing. Druid exists.
That's true. You can ramp into it. Play it before 9. It's so weird, like how randomness works in this game, because there's like so many instances where it's like sometimes it's just awful, and other times it's like the controlled randomness is like enough, like with Yogg, right? That it's like worth playing that card. I want you to tell me this card was crazy. I'm gonna say it's bad.
You are entirely right. It is. Okay. I had to go look at the data. I was actually genuinely curious to see how good it was, but yeah, it's not even being played. It's like that bad. I think it's because realistically though, if you didn't need the open slot in your hand, I think it actually would be a pretty decent card. Like
I was gonna say, I think it's weird you need the slots to do that. That's like a weird stipulation on this card. Pro gamer, look, it's you. 2 mana, 2/3, battle cry. Challenge your opponent to a game of rock, paper, scissors. The winner draws 2 cards. That's so funny. We have a similar card to this in Yu-Gi-Oh! I do not want to show it to you right now because it's, maybe I'll save it for my video. But we do have a very similar card to this, though, I will say.
Okay. I was going to say to you, this card as a rate for a 2-drop that draws 2 cards for a 2-mana 2/3 is unheard of. That is absurdly good.
That's great. Yeah.
You just have to win the game. No,
of course, you just have to win. It's a skill issue, right?
It is. Now, I have to mention this too, because this is actually a part of the card. If you both pick rock, no one gets anything.
Oh, so you don't play again. So if you draw, it's just like it fizzles out.
So mechanically, the way this card works is that you play it, and then you decide what you're picking. And then when your opponent gets their turn, because you can't do actions on your opponent's turn, at the start of it, they will pick an option. And then that's the resolution.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's the resolution. So just it's the perfect card to stream snipe your streamer. Is they pick rock, and then you just get 2 free cards. It's just fucking amazing.
And then if you lose anyway and they're not stream sniping you, you can blame it on the fact that they're stream sniping.
This is why we're on the same
content brain.
Obviously that card's not fantastic, but it is so fucking fun when they released it. Yeah, but these are like I think most of these.
It's one of those things. It's like what if though? What if?
It's just listen. If in a perfect world, I wish every Hearthstone card was some like variety of this, where it's like they really lean into the virtual aspect. They have a lot of wacky, fun concepts. I know that it's not going to be the case, but like if a card like Zephrys the Great could exist in multiple different varieties, like the game would be so much more fun. Nowadays, you're just fucking dying. So like, it is what it is. It is what it is.